Welcome, everybody, and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today for today's webinar, Is Local Tourism Down? My name is Marcia Dykamp, and I'm the Director of Sales at Driftscape. We're a Canadian company with a mission to make local culture easier to discover. In today's session, we're going to talk about the types of challenges tourism organizations and municipalities are faced with, and how Brockville is leveraging Driftscape to promote local tourism, helping their locals and visitors discover the hidden gems in their area. With me today is Catherine Hobbs. She's the tourism manager for Brockville. Since she's joined Brockville, Catherine has been focused on increasing the quality and range of products offered by the tourism team, Brockville's marketing reach, and its focus on branding and increased networking. Before joining Brockville, Catherine worked in organizations all over the place, in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, the UK, and even Ethiopia. She is a subject matter expert in communications, marketing, public relations, economic and business development, and policy development. Catherine was also a member of City Council in Ottawa for 4 years. She contributed to the decision-making required for the effective administration of the city and for turning community needs into municipal services. Catherine, it's such a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thanks, Marcia. I am really delighted to be here to share Brockville's story and our experience with Driftscape and how it's really helped us with our visitor servicing strategy. So I just want to thank you for welcoming me here today.
Before we get started, Catherine, I wondered maybe if you can describe to our listeners what Driftscape is to Brockville.
Absolutely. Driftscape for us is basically, and for everybody that is on Driftscape, it is a storytelling and an exploration application for travelers and for locals. So our local community can use it just as much as the people that are wanting to visit here. So we use Driftscape as a virtual visitor guide. So we use it to promote our businesses and our attractions in our community the same way that we used visitor guides in the past. But what we found is Driftscape has so much more flexibility in how we present the information and how we can change information. And I think all of us that work in visitor services know that we are the custodians of our local stories. And Driftscape gives us the benefit of being able to provide those stories in so many different ways. So we can just have plain text if we want that just people can read, or we can do audio recordings, we can put videos on it, and we can do photos. So, you know, it's a lot more than really just having the ability to share stories. It's also how we can alert travelers to everything that we have on the app because there's a notifications feature. And I would be completely remiss if I didn't mention just how cool it is to have the augmented reality feature, where you can just hold up your phone and tap on the augmented reality and you'll see in front of you everything that is there. Everything that we've put in to the app, that is. But I just want to say, Marcia, one of the key things that's of really great importance to us is now that we have the ability to have analytics, we can actually look at not too much personal detail, but we will have more information about who is using our virtual visitor guide.
I love that you call it a storytelling and exploration application. And you're right, the analytics are an important tool that we use to help support our partners. Our partners range from municipalities, townships, DMOs, RTOs, and even to smaller, unique cultural organizations.
Yeah, it's true. The analytics are really giving us information that we could never have collected with the print guide, and or even a web-based tool. Like once we put a visitor guide online, it's really difficult to determine the analytics that we felt we needed.
Catherine, it's funny, when we spoke about doing this webinar, you told me that the day Driftscape called you was the luckiest day of your life. What were you going through during that time?
Well, after I said that, I thought my husband would be horrified if I said that was the happiest day of my life. Of course, my wedding day was, but really, at that time, we were so immersed in doing our visitor guide, our print visitor guide. And I had wanted to make changes to our visitor services strategy and go digital for quite a while. But you get involved in what you're doing all the time. You just keep on doing the same things. And but when we sort of stepped back and looked at it, we understood that the visitor center now is just one of the many ways and one of the many touch points that travelers will access to learn how to experience our destination. So the fact that the visitor's guide also took us months to work on and to develop, writing all the material, and we were required to sell ad space, so we had months of work to sell the ads, and then we had to create them, and we needed those ads so we could afford the $50,000 or so it cost to have our visitor guides printed. And then once they were printed, we still had to truck them out all over the countryside, which took weeks and was pretty costly. So our current model basically was not scalable.
Yeah, oh my gosh, $50,000, months of selling the ads, and then having to truck them around still. That really doesn't seem scalable. So you mentioned that you knew you were going to need to make some changes. What piqued your interest in Driftscape?
Well, we are, a visitor center and tourism industry. We've had lots of mobile app companies contact us, and they wanted to create individual apps for us, specifically for Brockville. And the idea was great, but it just didn't make sense to us to have an individual app that really just covered Brockville. We're a small rural city, and there's lots of stuff around us, and so to work on that, the time it would have taken us to work on that, to develop a new app with somebody, and the budget that would have been involved it was out of our reach. So when Driftscape called, and when I saw the quality of the product that was available from Driftscape, and it was ready, and realized the degree of flexibility involved with the app, I just knew we had to sign up right away. In fact, I think I said, sign me up, right? So,
yeah, that's actually a good point. Because Driftscape isn't a white labeled application, all of our partners get to share their audiences with each other, giving our partners the power of many and giving the end users all of the best local content. Plus, you can add the places and the information that you want. We really don't limit what you want to add.
Yeah, and that was really important to me, that we'd be able to change that, because obviously we can't change our visitor guide on a dime. But so there was that aspect that is helpful for us, but it wasn't just that, because I really like that Driftscape also gives the travelers the options I was talking about earlier. It increases their ability to interact with us in the way they want to interact with us. So right now, if they don't want to come into a visitor center, or if they don't want to look up on the web, they have this other option. So having those options is great.
Yeah, you know what? That is true. We've heard that from other partners too, saying that they saw the value in our app because of that. What tools were you using before?
Well, we had our printed guide, and I don't know if you can see this at this point, but we have our Driftscape thing in our printed guide. And we also did a printed map of our region, not just Brockville, but we sold ads in both of the guide and the map in order to cover the costs of those. And we had our website, and it was pretty good. We've changed it this year, and I can talk more about that a little later. And then we had social media, which we really just started with in a big way last year. With the municipal accommodation tax, we were able to hire a digital media specialist. So we have our social media. And we normally have 2 visitor center locations open here in Brockville. This year we just have 1 because of COVID and the reduction of events and so on. But the visitor center in the summer, in the peak season and in the shoulder seasons, we mainly work with emails, with phone calls from visitors, and of course the walk-ins.
That's quite a few tools to manage and to use. I know my experience has always been that the more tools you use, the more challenges you have. Is that something that Brockville faced too?
Oh yeah, we faced a lot of challenges with that, and and especially because when we want to make changes to the website, it's a big deal. It's more than often that we can do in-house. And of course, printed documents, once you work on them and do them, that that's a time-consuming thing to do the printed document, and then we can't change them. And the other issue we had with that, we couldn't get the analytics, the type of analytics we needed. If we have a rough idea of where visitors are coming from and where they went when they were here and how long they stayed, the way Driftscape can give us, it gives us a lot more intel in order to focus any marketing efforts differently. And then I think one of the biggest challenges we had was cost. And so, the printed guides cost a lot, but also, especially with COVID, we were really noticing that people do not want those printed guides. We couldn't even get our hotels to keep them in their lobbies because they didn't want their guests hanging around the lobby and touching materials in there. So COVID added another whole element to it. And so we were just discovering that even COVID aside, more and more visitors did want to consume their information from a digital source rather than a print source.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So,
actually, we have heard that before. Why is an app better than a website? Or why should we have a website? Why should we invest in an app? But one thing that they might not be thinking about is that most travelers look up their information on the go, and not all websites are mobile responsive. The ones that are, they're still not really super convenient to maneuver, and it makes it difficult for the travelers to find what they're looking for or where they're on the map. I know I'm directionally challenged, so I definitely have that challenge. But that's something that Driftscape can do for you and make your visitors' life so much easier. Which actually brings me to my next question. What was it like getting started with Driftscape?
Oh, now that was like a dream because everybody at Driftscape was so incredibly supportive right from the beginning.
Yeah, our onboarding team, I have to say, they are amazing. They give you as much or as little support as you need.
Yeah, it's true because right away we knew we needed a lot. We asked to have weekly meetings with the Driftscape customer success team, and so we could talk about where we were and what we needed to do and anything else that had come up during that week. So they really helped us keep our project on track, and they were always available to answer our questions or jump onto a call even after our weekly meeting stopped.
What about after you were fully trained and you had all of your content in Driftscape? What happened then?
Yeah, that was our next hurdle. Yeah, what do we do now? Once we went live on Driftscape, our marketing strategies had to come into play. And so from that perspective, it has felt more like Driftscape was we're our trusted partner rather than, a client relationship. They just work with us, I should say you, because I'm talking to you, but Driftscape worked with us on so many different projects. So we were doing joint press releases, we were doing social media campaigns, so we were pushing out content, but so did the marketing team at Driftscape.
And you rolled out the deep links with QR codes, right?
Yes, we put the QR codes on all of our printed materials, our website, and it's in posters in our visitor center, it's in our emails, signatures. I have it in every ad that we have placed locally. Pretty much everywhere where we wanted to promote our site, we had it in there, our location. Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know what deep links are, could you just kind of explain how they work?
Well, I wish I could, but technically I could not tell you that. But the way they work is when visitors, I should say, they're our customers, scan the QR code, they're just directed to the Brockville content within Driftscape. So I understand at that point all the other content is hidden. They're just being directed to Brockville.
Right, and if they don't have Driftscape already downloaded on their phone, they're first brought to Apple or Google Play Store before they're directed specifically to your content.
Yes, and so that's really helpful for us to have that QR code. But we really love when they have Driftscape loaded on their phone for a number of reasons. But the other thing that I should mention that the Driftscape team did for us from the marketing perspective was they featured our destination Brockville in their Travel Tuesday posts for the month of July. So Driftscape created videos for us of our content that we could share on our social media, and it was also shared on Driftscape's social media. So, getting to work with such high quality people has been such a big benefit. I just feel such a deep level of trust with this team.
Aw, thanks, Catherine. We really enjoy working with you as well. One thing that I notice is that sometimes people hesitate when it comes to technology, thinking it's going to be way too complicated or, it's just going to take too much time or resources to get set up. What was Brockville's perspective on this?
Well, we had compiled massive asset lists of everything in town. And at first we thought we should just put everything on here. Everything should be on Driftscape, including the corner gas stations.
You know what? That's actually a pretty common challenge new partners have. They're so excited about using Driftscape, they just want to include everything and a lot of different things. How did you narrow it down from your initial plan to the 300 POIs that you have in Driftscape now?
Well, there was a lot of arguing initially, what was important and what wasn't. Basically, what we did, we just started looking at everything we had been doing in our visitor services, and just looking as well as and looking as well at why we were doing that. So, COVID was around, and we had a little bit of time to really examine that. So we just looked at our customers who is coming here to Brockville, and what do they want? What age are they? Where are they coming from? What do they want? And what do we want to be known as with our city? Like, we're a rural town. We've got lots of outdoor activities. We've sort of been focusing on different things because we always have events, but it gave us that time to sit back and really look at that. So that sort of helped us narrow things down. What do we want to present, and what do they want to see? So, it was really COVID that helped us realize that we're actually marketing to tourists in the same old way that we always were, and we needed to change. And so having Driftscape do that really helped us step forward into a growth mode. And so we took this slimmed down list that we had, and we have about 300 points of interest, I think, on it, if you can believe that was slimmed down. So we decided to create 4 different categories for our visitors and for our locals. So we have eat, I always forget them, eat, sleep, play, and see. And so those categories allow visitors to pick what they want to explore. If they're just looking for a place to spend the night, then they can just look at that one section on sleeping. But they can also explore everything in the city. They can take a tour. We have one of our railway tunnel, the first railway tunnel in Canada, underground railway tunnel. And during COVID, it was mainly closed until just a couple of weeks ago. So it was really the only way they could take a tour. So that option gave them a way to see what we have to offer. And using Driftscape, we have an opportunity to give them a lot of backstories, the local lore and what we know as locals that other people don't know. So they're getting far more backstories on each place than they ever got before. And so even if they're sitting at home or if they're touring around town, they can find out those things that locals do. And I think people like that. So
I agree. What you said there actually reminds me of a quote that I heard. If any given moment we have 2 options: to step forward into growth or to step back into safety. Speaking of stepping forward into growth, what was your experience like when you need to make changes to your content in Driftscape?
Yeah, and for Driftscape, it's extremely easy because, with a website, obviously there has to be a lot of thought to it. We had to outsource it in most cases. And a printed document, that required another piece of paper that we'd have to print and stick in our brochure. So unlike all of that, if we want to do an update to Driftscape, that is very, very easy. And there's no cost to us. We can do it. And I keep talking about this, but when Minister MacLeod, the Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, Culture Industries, came to see us back in June, within 15 minutes, we slapped into Driftscape a little tour of all the spots we were going to take her to that day. So she was really impressed. Minister MacLeod really liked this. But following that, we were going to take it down, but then we discovered when we looked at the analytics, it was our most popular tour that was on our app. So we just decided to leave it. We just figured everybody wants to know where Lisa MacLeod went, so we'll leave that up. But that really hit home to us when we wanted to do that, just how quickly we could do it, how quickly we could get stuff up and running, and how quickly we could change it, take it away, or update it. So we could do something daily, we could do something weekly, and if we want to look and see, what points of interest are getting lots of visits and which aren't, we can tailor our material to try and direct visitors to some of the places that they're not going to. So we love it.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, but I gotta say, your portfolio is so impressive. You worked with Minister McLeod previously too, right? When you were in Ottawa as the city councillor. I'm sure that you had some other lasting relationships that came out of that phase of your life.
Yes, it's true. It was fun, and I did. I think Mr. McLeod taught me a few words in Chinese to use in an event at the time.
That's so fun. So when you told some of your contacts in Ottawa about what Brockville was doing with Driftscape, what was their feedback like?
Well, it's sort of funny because recently I was talking to a marketing company there that are doing some work with our region. And I was telling them about all these great things we're doing in Driftscape. And I was kind of pleased because, I'm very competitive now with Ottawa and Brockville. And so I'm just like lining up everything, including about Driftscape. And at the end of the call, they said, we just want to say you are on the cutting edge of visitor services. And, that was just this moment where, like, really, we're this little town of 22,000 people. And so that was somebody from Ottawa. And for us at the time, it was really a no-brainer to go digital and give visitors the information that they needed in the format that they wanted. So it was good.
And it's not even just for visitors either. I know that when I'm touring around, I often pull up Driftscape to learn more about what's nearby.
Yeah, exactly. The notifications, that's great. And, I'm discovering things about my town all the time, even though we put all the material in there, you still forget what's around you. And the augmented reality view, I think that just makes you appear so much more knowledgeable about your area than you could possibly retain. And so I have my notifications turned on, and when I'm touring around town, I just get a little notice of what I'm passing, all the great sites that I'm close to.
When I was talking to one of the founders of Driftscape a few years ago, and he was describing to me what it did, that was actually one of the features that really appealed to me as an explorer. The fact that it's location aware, so anybody who has it downloaded, they get notifications when they pass by something that's going to be interesting. So I think that was really neat for me too.
Yeah, I think it's amazing because that's what really gives our visitors sort of a unique and interactive experience. They can decide what they want to look at. So it really allows them to discover the hidden gems in Brockville. And that augmented reality view is just a really fun way to interact with the places nearby. And I always tell this story when I was out having dinner at a little outdoor patio on an island here, and there's a statue right in the middle of the restaurant, and my husband and I were sitting with our back to the statue, and he points it out, and he goes, who is that in that statue? And I had this blank where, like, I don't remember who that was, so I just took my Driftscape and did the augmented reality. I go, oh yeah, that's Con Darling. He wheeled a little chicken around town in a stroller, and I went on to tell him all the other news about Con Darling. So just clicking on the little point of interest of that statue, I could give him all of the history of Con and his significance to Brockville, and it was fun. I felt really smart.
Yeah, I can relate to that too. And yeah, I mean, the outdoor patios, like you mentioned, it's been amazing since COVID started. And I just love how towns have adjusted to allow for so many outdoor patios in the areas. I imagine that COVID changed the types of attractions that people want to see too. I know other partners have told me that our self-guided tours within Driftscape, they're pretty popular right now. And our analytics can actually validate that too. Are you finding the same thing in Brockville?
Oh yes, definitely, for sure. Like, people are getting out. I mean, we've had a fantastic summer too, and people are getting out and doing things that they can do independently to stay safe. And so for us going digital at this point in time, We can just give them the tools they need to plan their adventure in advance if they want. They can explore the city from the comfort of their home if they don't feel safe in going out into a space. But that's flexibility.
Yeah, you just had two really interesting points there: going digital and the ability to explore from home. Now let's talk about those for a minute. How are you leveraging other technology to help your visitors and locals explore Brockville? And how does giving people a chance to explore from home promote tourism?
Well, a big part of our tourism here in Brockville are visiting friends and family. So if our locals are on it and they're at home, they can help potential visitors. But I think a big thing to us was that during the pandemic, marketing our destination was not possible. It was really out of place to keep up with our marketing programs and promote our destination when people couldn't travel and the community was not at all receptive. They didn't want people coming here. So like pretty much every other DMO, we just switched strategies and we went to a hyper-local strategy. So at that time, having this digital app up and running, Driftscape, it became our marketing tool. So we weren't overtly marketing, but if people were looking at this from Germany or from Mexico or just from Quebec, it really helped keep Brockville top of mind. So they could take a tour of Brockville while they were not feeling safe about traveling. So, and I think that it helps visitors feel a sort of a more personal connection with the home adventure they had within Driftscape. And then when they're ready to travel, we will hopefully be top of mind. So, right now we sort of moved along with going digital strategies, and we're just using Driftscape as the main tool along with the others to complement our content. And I know I talked about my website, our website in Brockville earlier. Yeah, I did it. It's all mine. And so we revamped our website to be a web-based visitor guide, and it has now the same categories as Driftscape. So using that sort of format with the see, stay, eat, and play, we replicated that on our website. And we decided to get more involved as well with online chat. So we had online chat ability on Facebook, but we turned it up on our new website as well. We made that live, and that's been fantastic. So, we just having that option. So while we can do a lot through a web-based visitor guide, we can do more with Driftscape. So we really like to have the two tools. It's really critical because on Driftscape, our changes are quick, they're easy, they're inexpensive. We can adjust it on the fly, and I think visitors can follow along in Driftscape easier than on web-based maps. Because when you're trying to follow along a walking tour in an area you're not familiar with, using the web-based map, it's not as easy as one might think. And Driftscape, with the location-aware application, it can show you exactly where you are and what's nearby. And so for the travelers to be able to see what's relevant to where they are, is really great on Driftscape, and they can tailor the notifications they get to match their preferences. So if they're really interested in heritage, they can just have all the heritage notifications coming up for them. So we have 144 heritage designations in downtown Brockville, and so they can just do that if that's what they would like to be made aware of as they walk along. And so. But another thing that I think is really great, and I talked about ads earlier with our visitor guide, it is so difficult, that whole process, but Driftscape doesn't have any ads. So we don't have to have anything that's annoying popping up like you would have in other applications. You can just use the app, and it's not tainted by any of that nasty advertising. So, and we don't have to worry about selling ad space. And just it's so important to me that visitors don't have ads in their face while they're exploring our destination. So Yeah, sorry, Marcia.
No, no, no. I was just going to say,
Yeah.
you've mentioned cost a few times today. Did you find the cost of Driftscape restrictive at all?
No. And I think that's one of the things I was just blown away when they said how much it was. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, like every tourism organization, we are certainly not loaded. We don't have a lot of money. Budget is always top of mind. Money doesn't appear out of nowhere. We beg, borrow, and steal for our money. So, what we were spending on printing a guide um, versus what Driftscape gives us, it is a no-brainer. It is there's really no choice to make. You would do that. So Driftscape, um, just the printing costs. I'm sorry I go on about money, but when you take the printing cost into consideration, and you look at the cost of even putting ads into, even with a digital marketing strategy, putting ads into Toronto or a US-based marketplace, doing Facebook promotions costs money, and the cost of our website updates. Um, when you compare all of that to the cost of Driftscape, Driftscape is minimal compared to all of those things. And the benefits we're getting from Driftscape far outnumber, you know, the costs of it, which is great. So
That's fantastic. So you mentioned some of the benefits. So can you just maybe elaborate a little bit more on those?
yeah, so from the perspective of the marketing, we have like a global visibility with with Driftscape, the same way we do with a website. But Driftscape, if people could be anywhere, and they can tour Brockville virtually, and they can learn more about what we have here. And and right now during COVID, I mean, we are getting visitors this summer, but it certainly isn't what it has been in the past. And so with Driftscape, we can use that tool to entice them to visit us when they feel safe. And you know, we've talked about it a little bit before, but also we get analytics on where they're coming from, and that's huge. And I like that locals like me can learn more about their community that they didn't know before. And I guess one of the things that's really important to me, like we have these trusted partners now with Driftscape's marketing team. They're working with us to promote Brockville, and and because of that, we only need less than one full-time resource to maintain all of our content. And so, you know, often there's digital platforms where you need to have a specialist who has web training or social media experience. We don't need that now. So, um, and I guess just sort of in general, we no longer feel really hampered by money. So from a budget point of view, uh, really signing up with Driftscape was the best thing that we've ever done. It's for and what it provides for our visitors, we can continue to give them this amazing experience without risking their health. And I do hope they come here at some time. And you know, there are no cases in Brockville, but you know, people are concerned about that. So we are able to give them these experiences, and and I think also, I think, but I just feel confidence now, this great confidence that we're just so well positioned for whatever the future will bring. And a large part of that is because we're using Driftscape.
And I thank you. That's amazing. And you said that you can see where your visitors are from. Are you seeing visitors coming from French-speaking areas at all? How, and if they are, how have they been interacting with Driftscape?
Yeah, well, we do have a lot of visitors that come from Ottawa, and of course, there's a lot of French-speaking people in Ottawa. There's French-speaking people here as well, but we also were very close to Quebec. And so, one of the things that we find is if we can just provide some content in French, it is respectful and it shows that we're interested in those travelers. And so, while I know the app isn't multilingual and neither is our website at this point, we do have the ability to add that French content, and it can be either above or below the English content. We can do separate tours in French for the French or the Francophone community. So we're pleased about that. Like, we can add information in the language of our travelers' choice.
Yeah, being able to cater to a diverse group of tourist preferences is definitely helpful. Catherine, it's been so great chatting with you today. I've had a lot of fun in this talk. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with Driftscape. Before we wrap up, do you have any words of advice for our listeners today?
Yeah, well, I know that I'm not telling anybody anything out of the norm when I say that the COVID's been horrific. It's been horrific for our industry. We were very hard hit, and there's a long recovery period for many industries. Some of the hotels are 5 years recovery. So, but one of the things it did was it reversed everything we were doing. And while things look pretty bleak from a tourism perspective, it gave us time to sit back, as I mentioned, and do the right pivots that would set us up for the remainder of 2020 and for next year and possibly the year after that. So things are changing very quickly. And so, what we found is we'd be crazy to sit back and keep doing things the same way we always did. It doesn't pay you to sit back and let the world roll on by you. So I guess what I'd really encourage everybody to think about was how we're using this time. Um, while events are limited and we have a lot less travelers than we normally have, and just really take this time and look at what you're doing and what your visitors want to do, and make the changes that can give visitors a safe and exciting way to visit your destination. And so if I was going to recommend anything, I would recommend, and I do it all the time, everybody I talk to, a tool like Driftscape is an amazing asset, and I just really highly recommend it. And thank you so much to all of your team, because you made our life a dream here.
I'm so happy to hear that. Our team looks forward to a long and happy relationship with both you and the city of Brockville. Just want to pause for a minute and answer any questions that our listeners have or that we haven't been able to answer during the webinar today. Okay, so Catherine, I'm going to let you take that first question here. The question is, how has Driftscape helped during COVID?
Yeah, and basically, we got our app out right in the midst of this pandemic. So we were able to use it as a marketing tool. So we had to stop immediately. We had to stop our digital marketing program. And so, and you feel sort of like, oh my gosh, how is anybody going to remember who we are and where we are? And so having Driftscape, that helped us provide that information to people wherever they are in the world. And then also when they came here, our visitor center wasn't really open in the same way that it traditionally is. So people can't wander in, and some people aren't comfortable about wandering into a visitor center. So we have a big poster on our door that said, if you want, you can just download this app and you'll be able to find your own way around town, and you won't have to worry about interacting with people or stepping into our visitor center. So I think those were the key things. And also providing something that's kind of fun for people. It's something that maybe they wouldn't have needed even information. Like for our locals, they maybe don't need that information because they know their way around town. But if they use it, they can have a little bit more fun when it's kind of boring because you're not able to do all the normal things that you would do, like go to movies and take part in events. So it gives you a little something to do while you take that long walk down all of our trails.
Yeah. You can check out those 144 different heritage sites, right?
I know, you don't have to walk right up to their house to read the plaque. Yeah. It gave people that benefit of having some space. It was entertainment for our locals, and it's hopefully was a lot of entertainment for those from away. So
awesome, thank you, Catherine. The second question we have here is, how can I get started? So At the end of this presentation, I will provide my contact information. Feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. I can set up a conversation just to better understand what your needs are and what you're looking for specifically with Driftscape, and then we can get started from there. So the next question here is, how does Driftscape charge customers for the service? Do we have to pay extra to edit and maintain the content later on? The answer is, it's an annual fee that you would pay once a year. And again, it depends on what your needs are. There's different packages. You do not have to pay extra to edit or maintain the content later on. It's all part of your package. All right, so it looks like that was the last of the questions. If you do have more questions, oh, one more. How do I get full control? I'm not sure what you mean by full control, but I'm going to guess what you mean by that. So if you mean by full control is you have access to edit all of your content and you're controlling that, that is absolutely part of the package. And Catherine, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you go in and make some edits.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, there is, I think the tiers that you pay for are by how many points of interest you have. So, you know, obviously you have full control over it regardless, because you can decide if you want 1,000 points of interest or, you know, 300 or whatever it is. So, you know, there may be financial implications to having 10,000 points of interest, but but you still have full control over it. And when you're working with the app, that's everything that we do here in our office. So our manager of visitor services, she just goes in and alters what we need to alter. She actually did the audio recordings and added them in herself. So you really have full control over what information is in there. So
yeah, it's literally just like a copy and paste. So it's the next question here is it web based or is it software? And so the answer to that is web based. So when you log into it, it's literally kind of like just like a copy and paste, like a Word doc. So you can put that content in there. You can add your videos. You can add your audio, and you control it. We don't limit what you're putting in there at all. All right, looks like the questions are wrapping up. If you're interested in taking advantage of this offer, you can, or if you just want to even see a full product demonstration, I'm happy to do that for you as well. You can contact me directly. I've also put on Catherine's contact information if you have any questions for her. You can see that on the screen here. We will send you a copy of this webinar at the end of the webinar as well, so you can refer back to that. And I will also contact you in a few days just to see if you had any other questions as well. Thank you from both Catherine and myself. We hope that you found this webinar informative. We really do want to create an immersive and engaging experience for your visitors and your locals. And I really look forward to hearing from all of you soon.
Thanks, Marcia.
Catherine.